Iran has launched a wave of missiles targeting American military bases in Qatar and Iraq. While all were intercepted and no casualties have been reported, the strike has rattled the region, with Gulf states closing airspace and tensions soaring after US attacks on Iranian nuclear sites over the weekend. Tehran now pulling back from global nuclear oversight, and Israel is stepping up its own strikes. President Trump says Iran's response was very weak, but warns the conflict may not be over yet. For more, let's head to the States. We're joined by Oz Sultan from Sultan Interactive Group. How serious is this escalation now that Iran has attacked a US base?
Reasonably so, but there's a couple of interesting dynamics playing out around this one. Number one, President Trump had thanked Iran for kind of making some clarity on where the strike would be, and also thanked Qatar for their collaboration in terms of repelling this attack. What you're looking at right now is Operation Midnight Hammer, which was the utilization of our bunker-busting bombs. So these are 30,000 and 60,000-pound bombs, which were dropped on 3 sites across Iran, where they were purported to have nuclear centrifuges that were being used for enrichment processes. And as you can see here, this is the process of how this works. So these things can actually strike and penetrate down to 60 meters, exploding and then creating a cavernous crater that goes further. The reason for this, and this goes back to the original attacks, was largely because their bases were supposedly 300 feet or more underground. So, we have these bases taken out. We have the face-saving response of Iran kind of coming back with the attack in Qatar. We still have skirmishes ongoing in between missile defense systems of Iran and Israel, which I think will continue for a short period of time. But I think we're moving more back towards the table where Iran has saved face, at least within their purview.
Yeah, very much so. It's interesting you say that, because Tehran obviously has come under fire from the Israelis, who are picking up the mantle and going after the Fordo nuclear base to really make sure that those bunker buster bombs worked. But they have gone a step further as well to make sure it's completely obliterated here. You mentioned President Trump and what he put out on Truth Social there. I know it's a little bit hard to read, but essentially he has lashed out at Iran for a very weak response. They've attacked a US base in Qatar. This has led to all sorts of airspace issues for airlines around the world, particularly Middle Eastern carriers or airlines who fly through or to the Middle East here as well. When we have seen a rise in tensions between Iran and Israel over the past few months, the US has warned Israel and Iran not to escalate things when they do a tit for tat. Is that what we've seen here, where the president essentially is talking down Iran's attack on a US base rather than escalating?
Largely, I think what we're looking to do is to move this back towards détente, right? What we would prefer is that the Iranians and the Israelis could figure out a path forward. And that path forward would include some kind of a stalemate, some kind of a ceasefire, and then moving towards some initial negotiations on how we could settle peace within the region. Now, the reality of that could be a little bit weirder than what most peace agreements would tend to be inside of the West. But I think in this case, where you've had 2 countries that have largely been at each other's throats for 40 to 50 years, there's a significant opportunity here for de-escalation, and I think that's what President Trump wants to drive towards.
Very much feels like the next 24 to 48 hours will be pretty telling as to which direction this actually goes. Let's talk about what's happening on the markets, because, crypto's gone up bizarrely after going down at the start of the week. But we have seen oil, all eyes on Brent oil prices, which shot up by 5% pretty quickly, which isn't at all surprising. But that Strait of Hormuz, which we know that the Iranian parliament has voted to close down, the US is seeking support from China to act as an intermediary to prevent Iran from shutting it down. What are your views on this and the impact on global oil?
The impact on global oil will be significant. 20% of global supply will be cut. It'll only affect America in terms of somewhere between 9 and 10% of our total supply, because we produce domestically. We also have strategic reserves, and we purchase from a variety of different countries. But where it comes to folks like China and India and some of the trading partners that are within this sphere of influence that are kind of getting dragged into this conflict, that shutdown, if it lasts longer than I would say 60 days, is going to have some serious impacts, not just in terms of the cost of fuel, but it may shut down certain operations, certain industries inside of both countries, because there's a tremendous amount of liquefied natural gas, LNG, liquefied propane, LPG, as well as coal and oil that are needed for their operations. The coal doesn't fall into this, but the oil definitely is a significant concern here.
Oh, very much so. And obviously, we're watching for Trump's reaction here. Do you think he will go further? He has hinted at regime change over the weekend.
You know, I think regime change is something that Reza Pahlavi would like to see. I think it is unlikely at this juncture. You know, when we pushed for regime change in Iraq, you ended up with destabilization, you ended up with insurgent groups, you ended up with ISIS. I don't think we want to create that kind of a problem for Israel, which is what would happen were you to destabilize Iran, because there's not a clear path to transition to a new government.
Yeah.
And it is likely that some sort of civil fighting, or civil war could potentially break out. So
Yes.
the path to peace is probably the stronger bet.
Oh, Sultan from Sultan Interactive Group, appreciate your insights. Thank you.
Thank you.